Joining us is Sparked Chief Political Writer Brendan O'Neill. Brendan, welcome. Of course, you know, we all want to see peace in the Middle East, and lo and behold, Trump's done more to achieve that than pretty much anyone else in the last century or so. But this is not simple. It is not as simple as some people would like to think it is. How heavily should we react to the Palestinian Authority not taking seriously the rules that were laid down?
I think we should react very strongly indeed. You know, this pay for slay scheme that the PA has is deadly. And what it does, it incentivizes violence against Israelis, which is fundamentally violence against Jews. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about terrorists who kill Israeli Jews and then get rewarded for it with money, with special treatment when it comes to government jobs, with special welfare for their families. It's an extraordinary and terrible system. And the fact that Keir Starmer and other governments in the West recognized the Palestinian state when they should have known that this was carrying on is an outrage. I think we can see quite clearly now that Keir Starmer's recognition of Palestine has been disastrous. Hamas welcomed it as a reward for 7th of October. So Keir Starmer was essentially rewarding the worst act of anti-Jewish violence in 2 generations. And we now know that the PA is carrying on, we think, through various mechanisms of paying terrorists who kill Israelis. So this is the kind of nation, the kind of government, the kind of state that Keir Starmer and others are supporting. I think it's pretty scandalous.
It is scandalous, and it's actually quite shocking to think that this is going on. Unbelievable. Now, Brendan, asylum seekers are set to be banned from using government-funded taxis after it was revealed taxpayers were picking up the £15.8 million a year bill. I had to look that up. That's almost 32 million Aussie dollars for annual travel expenses. One migrant even travelled 402 kilometres by cab for a GP consult about his knee and charged the Home Office £600. What on earth's going on?
It's absolutely bizarre. Yeah, as you say, we've had this migrant taxi scheme where we're ferrying migrants, many of them illegal immigrants, to see GPs, to see doctors, to get medical appointments, and we're spending millions of pounds every year. But you know who can't get a taxi to the doctor and ask the government to pay for it? Me, someone who was born in the UK, who's lived here his whole life, who's worked here for years and years and years. I don't have that right. This really brings to the surface something quite extraordinary and perverse in British society, which is that illegal arrivals, men who arrive on small boats, overnight they have more rights to basic necessities than the ordinary Brit. So they have the right to bed and board. They have to be put up in a hotel according to refugee laws. They have to be given 3 meals a day. They have to be provided with medical assistance, and in some cases, even a weekly allowance that they can spend. Ordinary Brits don't have access to that. If you're down on your luck as an ordinary Brit and maybe you become homeless, you can't say to the government, put me up in a 4-star hotel and give me 3 meals a day. They would laugh in your face. So we have this really twisted situation where people coming illegally into this country have more rights and more benefits than ordinary Britons. And I think that's what people are sick and tired of. And that's why immigration and issues like this, the migrant taxi scandal, these are going to be the big issues in the next general election here.
Why can't they put ex-Prince Andrew in a cab and send him to Coventry? And just quickly, we've only got a minute, but before we go, I thought, speaking of, that he was going to be stripped of being a Vice Admiral in the Royal Navy. The government said they were going to do it, but nothing seems to be moving.
You know, it's really not surprising that this is a government responsibility to strip him of this title, because the government is useless at everything. It takes ages to do anything. The king has acted pretty swiftly. He's stripped Andrew of his titles, kicked him out of the castle and so on, but the government is dragging its feet. People in this country want the Andrew crisis resolved because he is an embarrassment to the royal family and he's an embarrassment to Britain.
Yeah, no, Brendan O'Neill, you're absolutely spot on. Thank you very much for joining us on the show this evening. Really appreciate it.